Hello folks, welcome to my YouTube channel, Watercolor Impressions. This week we are going to learn how to paint a dawn scene, and I took a reference from one of the crowded streets in Toronto. Before you go, hit the subscribe button so you guys can get weekly video updates from our channel. I want to expedite the process, so I did the sketch already, and so the first things first, in watercolors we start with the light wash, and I'm starting with the sky. For the sky I'm using Cerulean Blue, but when it comes to down, I'm using a little bit of green in it, and as soon as it comes down I'm going to warm up the wash. And I'm also leaving some bits here and there for the distance buildings, and I'm going to put it in because that also creates a little bit of AC distance, so I want to leave it as it is. And I'm trying to combine that with the roads in the midground as well. So now I'm going to paint the road, and you can see it is a little bit warmish, but as it comes to the foreground it's going to be a little bit darker. And I'm using a little bit of neutral tint and a little bit of blue in it. So now I'm focusing on the foreground building. When you approach a scene like this, especially a dawn scene, pick a focal point and have a vision. And where is your focal point? So my focal point is on the left, and which is gonna have a lot of details on it because that's where my focus is gonna be. On the right hand side it's going to be really weak, and it's going to be too minimal. But being said that, I want to capture the shadows and I want to create that contrast as well. And you can see the wash looks really severe now. When I put on the wash I was thinking that I was overdoing it, but it becomes super dull. That's how watercolor works, and sometimes I leave it as it is because that gives a little bit of vibrancy, a lot of contrast, and it pushes the lighting as well. And you can see in a matter of a second I blocked in the first wash really quick, and just throwing down the wash and the colors wherever I see. And now I'm blocking down the shadow pattern, and you can see I'm trying to leave some eyelets when I'm blocking the shadows. And when you do this shadows, try to do it in a quick, confident way, and that shows a little bit of confidence in our painting as well. And you can see once we started adding the shadow patterns, everything is coming alive. So even in shadows, there's two values there. There's a midtown value, and there's also a darker value on top of it. And once I put on the darker value on the top of the ceiling, it kind of didn't look good, so I took off some of the painting. And I'm also trying to add the shadow on the right hand side as well. And you can see I'm trying to connect each and every shape and the shadows together as well. But when it comes down, the shadow, even though the shadow doesn't come all the way, I try to create the shadow, and I also want to make it blurry as well. So that gives the illusion of blurry shadows, and it also gives a variety of edges in our painting as well. And you can see I'm also adding the shadows on the right hand side, the building which is facing on the other side. So it's easier to think that the things which are up front, they will have lighter values. The things which are not up front facing the other side will have the darker value. And you can see that also creates a three-dimensional shape for our building. And that's how architecture works in real life as well. And whenever I put the shadows on those buildings, I'm trying to keep everything warm. And I also grade a little bit using blue. And I don't use one color to paint the shadows. And that's the other thing I look into a lot of watercolor painters. They try to have a little bit of color variation even in the shadows. And if you mix a lot of colors in the shadows, and it gives us a little bit of it kills the monotonous in our painting, and it also attracts the viewers, and a lot of people wants to buy your painting. Because sometimes in my art market or when I do a show, a lot of people look for vibrant scenes. And you can see I add the shadow on the right hand side, and I'm also making sure the shadow is really weak, and I'm not spending that much time on the shadows there. Whereas on the left hand side, and I want to create a lot of shadows. So now I'm trying to add the streetcar. There is nothing that shows Toronto is the streetcars. So I'm adding the streetcar as fast as I can, and you can see I'm not adding the darker pattern now. I'm adding the pattern. I'm adding the value which is behind it. And there's a building which is peeking through on the other side. You can also see I blocked the shadow underneath the streetcar because it gives that wet on wet technique, so I just left it as it is. And now I'm adding the street poles, and you can see in the street poles, before I used to paint dark with neutral tint with burnt amber in it, but like nowadays I started like adding a little bit of lighting in my street pole as well. And you can see there's a little bit of warmer tone at the top, but as it comes down there is a little bit of blurry reflections. I kind of added that as well. And the street lights and the one which is in the middle I'm not worried about that much, whereas on the one which is in the foreground and against the building, I want to add more details. And you can also see there's also a street sign. It is a Bathurst street, and it also connects with the street sign as well. And since I have that something in the brush, so I'm just throwing down here and there just to create a little bit of color contrast. And you can see the vibrancy on the building, even though it looked really severe, now it looked a little bit weak on our building. So the trick is not to add anything, just leave it as it is. If you add something, try to fix something, it ruins the wash of watercolors. So that's a little bit of trick to watercolors. Just leaving as it is, it creates this beautiful color of light and shadows in our painting. And now the street signs and the shadows, I'm adding that as well. When you do this kind of details, try to keep really minimal. Don't try to overdo it. I have done overdoing it and I added more details. It looked really bad, and whenever I put less details, it looked even better. And I also glazed over another kind of wash on the road because it's a little bit darker because it's sitting on the shadow. I'm using clean water to get some lines on the watercolors. But at the bottom, I'm going to make it a little bit severe because it helps to take the viewer into the painting as well. And this sign, which is really necessary because which is sitting in front of that dark shadow pattern. Sometimes it's really good to have that light and shadow, that positive against negative. It gives a little bit of impact in our painting as well. And now I'm adding a little bit of details here and there just to enhance the scene and showing a little bit of forms in my scene. So now I take Chinese white and out of the tube with no water in it, and I use this to bring back the eyelets in the building on the right hand side. I would have left the building as it is, but I'm adding a little bit of eyelets here and there just to enhance the lighting. Whenever you see a big black shape or dark shape, you can enhance the lighting just by adding the eyelets. So every painting I do, I usually tape my watercolor paper and just to get the crisp edges and so that we know how it's framed as well. And it rather came nice. Now it's your turn. Take one of your down reference, or you can use my reference and paint with it, and don't be discouraged if you don't get it the first time, and let's see what you can come up with. Thanks again for watching this dawn painting tutorial. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. If you have any other topics related to watercolors that you would like me to cover, please reach out to me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for weekly uploads and share with your fellow artists, friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.